Hi everyone, today we're reading Del Toro Moon by Darby Carshut. We're going to be reading chapter 3, and today I'm going to try to put out 4 chapters of this book since it doesn't take too long to make them, so give me a little to make it, and it'll be out today. I watched Ben help our father limp inside, my whole being lighter at the side. Okay then. I turned and tagged along behind the horses. Matt Del Toro, equine indentured servant. Want to go first? I asked Elsid. He paused at the water barrel just outside the double doors. Oh, I can wait. Go ahead, before Turk becomes impatient. He stuck his lips in the water and began slurping. And he takes it out on me, I thought. I followed Turk over to his corner, the one near the back door with a window, and unsaddled him. I wiped him clean of blood and Skinner leftovers with a damp cloth, then went to work on him with a grooming tool that looked like an oversized scrub brush. Even with the brush, I had to use my fingernails to scrape away some of the dead flies. Yeesh. I scrubbed my hand on my jeans. Good? He shook himself like a dog, then pawed at the straw. The straw snapped with each blow. You missed some. I gritted my teeth. Where? On my belly. Are you sure? I squatted down for a look. I thought I got it all. A hoof swiped past my head and grazed my ear. I flung myself backward in the straw. Hey! Rubbing my ear. I glowered up at him. Watch your big feet. Just pointing out the spot. He stared back, eyes black, shiny marbles behind a heavy forelock just as dark. Like heck you were. I can see just fine. I cleaned him as fast as I could, shoulders hunched, waiting for a blow. None came, probably because I was ready for it. All finished. I sighed in relief at having survived another round. Before he complained about the service, I hurried over to the covered storage bins lining one side of the barn and filled 2 huge scoops with grain, balancing them carefully. I carried them to his feed tube and poured them in. The oats pattered against the hard rubber. The sound reminded me of those flies pinging against my face. I shuddered. Double yeesh. Need anything else? No. Go away. I rolled my eyes. Why don't you go away? Like to Alaska. Turk arrived at the ranch 3 years ago when Ben started hunting. There was something sharp and cold, like a shard of obsidian about him, and from day one, the black stallion wanted nothing to do with me or my brother. After getting thrown off or trampled on repeatedly, all by accident, according to the big fat liar, the feeling was mutual. Jaw clenched, I stomped over to Elsid and unfastened the shink's buckle and yanked the straps from around his barrel with a snap. He flung his head up. A bit rough there. Sorry, Yelp poked me. Was Turk giving you a bad time? As usual. Hands busy, I lowered my voice. Turk the jerk. That was the worst comeback I've ever heard. I probably couldn't do better, but leaning his head closer to mine, Elsid blew softly. The warm aroma of grass and grain wafted over me. Best not let him hear you say that. Not if I wanted to live another day. I slid the saddle and pad off, careful not to bang him with the stirrups, and carried the tack to the racks next to the feed bins. Ben's saddle was there, covered in dust. Can't have that. After placing my saddle on its holder, I took a moment to swipe Ben's clean and smooth out the shink strap before refolding it neatly. Grinning, I snagged some fresh rags and a clean grooming brush as I worked. As I worked, Elsid stood with a head lowered and eyes closed in bliss, one hip cocked in response. White horsehair drifted around my face. I sneezed, blowing bits out of my nose, then spat to one side. In spite of the Barnes piece, the image of a Skinner chomping down on my father's legs looped through my head like a horror movie trailer in repeat. I chewed on the inside of my cheek, almost afraid to ask, Are you sure Dad's going to be okay? I am. Elsid shifted position and cocked his other hip. How do you know? Because Javier would have already felt the effect of the venom if he had received a full dose, or even half a dose. I doubt the Skinner injected him with more than a drop or 2. So not to worry, he's a tough hombre. He'll be fine. Promise? Promise. Hi, heart lighter. I swept the brush along his spine and over his haunches, my hand on autopilot. In spite of the joking earlier, I knew Elsid wouldn't lie to me about important family stuff. If he said Dad was going to be okay, then Dad was going to be okay. Simple as that. I moved down to his ribs, whistling softly between my teeth. After a few minutes, the stallion spoke, eyes still shut. You missed a bit on my back. Here. Here? No, closer to my mane. Got it. I gave the spot a couple of swipes, and I believe I've a pebble embedded in my right foreshoe. See to it, will you? Even though he bossed me around almost as badly as Turk, it was totally different with Elsid. Anything else, my lord? Smart mouth. Just calling it like I see it. Dad says you take your name too literally sometimes. When I opened. Oh, he did? Did he? I'll have to work on that. The eye closed. By the way, I'd like molasses drizzled over my grain this evening. Yes, my lord. Walking out of the barn 10 minutes later, I hurried across the yard. Dad was alive. Ben was home. The Skinners were locked tight behind their wards. I practically skipped up the porch steps. My stomach growled. Patting it, I pondered deep and profound thoughts about meatloaf. The oniony kind, with chunks of bell pepper and topped with a thick slab of tomato paste. So hot from the oven, it shredded the skin off the roof of my mouth. Nom, nom. I slipped inside. The screen door whopped shut behind me. A combination of living room and kitchen welcomed me, illuminated by the sun's lingering rays through the black back window. In the living room, a warm sofa and a pair of recliners clustered in the room in front of the stone fireplace. A modest-sized television sat next to the hearth. In one corner, a hallway led to our bedrooms. Beyond the living room was a kitchen, just the right size for a table and 6 chairs. In the other corner sat a large desk, complete with a laptop we all shared, and where Dad homeschooled me and Ben because he wouldn't stand the current state of public education. His words, not mine. Behind the desk were floor-to-ceiling shelves, made from leftover wooden planks stacked on cinder blocks. Books of every size neatly lined each shelf according to the subject. Topics ranged from meteorology to edible plants of the Southwest to car repair for dummies. There was even one on how to conduct a Viking burial. My father had read them all, of course. But it was the Renaissance fair looking object hanging over the fireplace that always caught people's attention. Our family's coat of arms. The shield-shaped plaque displayed a silver crescent moon on a sable background. The moon's tip pointed upward like a bull's horn and took up most of the space above the mantel. Dad? Ben? Hanging my mace on the coat hooks by the front door. I checked my boots for mud or manure. Good enough. Here, Dad's voice echoed along the hall from his bedroom. Start supper, would you? What do you want? I yelled. Anything but meatloaf, Ben shouted back. Stuff gags me. A moment later, the shower from our bathroom started up, with a thunk and a hiss. Except you're not cooking, I murmured. So meatloaf it is. After pulling the Tupperware from the freezer, I placed it in the microwave and punched the thaw button. The machine hummed gleefully over its ability to turn a frozen burger brick into something edible. I added a bowl of green beans to the meal, pulling dishes from the cupboard, and I grinned to myself because I was setting the table for 3 instead of 2. I started to move aside yesterday's Denver Post, then paused. The words, El Labyrinto, jumped out at me. Uh-oh. Still holding the stack of plates, I leaned closer. In the news from around the Centennial States section, I read silently. Possible funding is pending for a joint archaeological slash panethnical research project for the El Labyrinto Wilderness Area. The area is located on the eastern slope of the Sangre de Cristo Range in southern Colorado near the town of Hufferano. If approved, the project will be organized and directed by scientists and staff from the Field Museum of Natural History out of Chicago. Dates are still undecided. A whisper of bare feet on the wooden floor. Dad appeared. One pant leg rolled up to his knee. A white gauze bandage was wrapped around his calf. Did you see this? I held up the paper. Pulling a pair of reading glasses from his shirt pocket, he slipped them on and scanned the page. I did not. I spoke to Inez Ortega already. I did. I spoke to Inez Ortega already. He sighed. Our good mayor is in favor of the project in spite of the maze's reputation. Anything to bring money into the area. However, she said it did not look like the project was going to go through. Lucky for us. Lucky for those scientists. Tossing the paper into the trash, I gestured at his leg. Does it hurt badly? Badly? Does it hurt badly is the correct form. What? Oh, does it hurt bad? Oh, sorry. Whatever. Well, does it? Nothing that simple aspirin cannot handle. It is more like a bite from a dog than anything else, Senor Fortune. Senor Fortune rode in the saddle with me today. Thinking back to the conversation with the Grey, I nodded, because if that Skinner had tagged you with any venom, it wasn't very much you would have felt by now. Yeah, that's what Elsa told me. I finished sitting at the table, then sank down in one of the chairs. Dad joined me. Hooking another chair with his foot, he dragged it closer and rested his injured leg on it. He propped the skin above the bandage. A drop or two just makes a person or horse feel sick, like they had the flu. Horses can handle more because of their larger body mass. It takes a full-on bite with both fangs to kill. Does it happen right away? Death? No. The venom spreads slowly. That way the Skinner can drag the victim back to its lair to be eaten later. My scalp tightened. Eaten alive? Bones and all. Ben appeared, dressed in a worn but clean t-shirt, his wet hair slicked back like a Skinner takeout meal. Roman told me that they usually start with your face, cheeks, lips, under the chin, the softest flesh. The microwave binged. Supper's ready, I announced in a loud voice, and needing to shut that up. We gathered around the table. Over our protest, Dad spooned extra helpings of the green stuff onto our plates. In spite of his earlier complaint, my brother hunched over his meatloaf, hammering it down until Dad cleared his throat. Sorry, Ben straightened with a rueful grunt. Guess I was hungrier than I thought. I hope you did not eat like that at Kathleen's table. Dad slid another thick slab onto Ben's plate, then mine, before helping himself. She will think I have not taught my son manners. Did you thank her and Roman for having you at their ranch again? Yeah, Dad, I always do. Sheesh, I know how to act in public. How's Joe? Still ignoring you? I couldn't resist teasing my brother Ben about his long-standing crush on the Narvaez daughter, who was 17 and a year older than him. It was one of my favorite brother chain yanking. She's still out hunting and riding you. He kicked at me under the table. I pulled my leg to safety with a practice move and grinned wider. Pretending to ignore me, Ben finished the second slice of meatloaf and started on the green beans with less enthusiasm. By the way, Roman says he'd bring us Isabel whenever you want. Isabel? Chewing. I thought back to the last time we visited the Neverrays at their ranch. Then that straddled the state line between Colorado and New Mexico. 60 or so miles along the crest of the Sangre de Cristos. If I were a crow. Oh, wait, I asked around a mouthful. Is she that sorrel mare we met in October? That's the one. She's a real fireball. Pride and fondness colored Ben's voice. How so? I wonder if she's going to be like Turk. I hope not. One of my family was enough. She attacked a pack of coyotes hanging around the Navarre ranch, trying to snatch one of the foes? I don't know. He gave up on the green beans. I didn't blame him. She hid behind the corner of the barn, watching for them one evening. Then, when the pack showed up, she burst out and stomped two of them into the ground before they knew what hit him. Sorry. He grinned. That's what they get for trying to pull something around a herd of war horses. A question popped in my head. Dad, have any of the other hunters ever tried using normal horses? Normal horses? What if El Cid referred to as normal horses? What El Cid referred to as livestock, usually with a sniff or derison? I don't know. You mean for our kind of hunting? Dad shook his head. My grandfather tried, and Roman too, years ago. But it's nearly impossible to train an average horse to stand its ground in the face of a Skinner or other kinds of monsters, much less attack or defend us. The Montonias down in Arizona are trying some crossbreeding, but so far, nada. What would happen if you didn't have the Andalusians? My fork hovered over the last bite of meatloaf. Its moist red topping reminded me of the Skinner's peltless body. And there went my appetite. I laid my fork down with a clink and pushed my plate away. We would hunt them another way. Dad scooped leftovers off my plate and added them to his. Until then, we still have Elsa and Turk, and soon we'll have Isabel. She likes to be called Izzy, Ben said. We did some training together just for kicks. And because she kept bugging me for some practice, his face lit up as he talked. You think Turk is fast? Well, wait till you see her in action. Man, is she going to keep our boys on their toes. Or hooves. Dad grunted in surprise. You trained? Without rooming, having to break your arm? My brother's grin slipped a notch. Well, sure. Why wouldn't I? Just because I thought our method was too old-fashioned for you. Oh man, my heart sank. Not this again. A muscle in Ben's cheek twitched. He slouched back, one arm hooked over the back of the chair. Look, I just think there could be a different way to hurt those things. One that's more effective and less dangerous. Our way has worked for almost 500 years, and in case you have forgotten, Dad pointed his fork at my brother. We Del Toros have a way. Ben made a face. Yeah, Pop. All know this family's history. His voice deepened. Taking on the storytelling cadence? Sorry. I know. I have like the reading level of a 5-year-old. That sounded a lot like our father's. For you, my sons, and the descendants of the knight, Santiago del Toro. He, along with a band of fellow knights, rid 17th century Spain from a plague of devil-spawned creatures, sealed through evil spirits in iron chests called coffins. Coffers, I interjected, not coffins. Coffers, Ben continued without missing a beat, and then sent the chests across the ocean to the New World to be buried in remote regions. That is enough, Reuben, Dad warned. Ben clearly had a death wish. He kept going. And with those chests sailed to the knights of the coffer and their allies, Andalusam warhorses with the power of human speech, to stand eternal watch. He waved a hand in the air. Cue the theme music. In spite of everything, I laughed. Ben joined me, until I noticed Dad's expression. Gulping down my amusement, I lowered my gaze and pretended a fascination with my plate. Why do you always ridicule our family? Dad's eyes narrowed, a hawk zeroing in for the kill. I shifted in my seat and took a swing at peacekeeping. He wasn't dead. Not really. Ben's just kidding around. When he mocks our family, he is mocking me. My brother rolled his eyes. I wasn't making fun of you. You were. Be a man and admit it. My pulse sped up. Dad, I don't think he meant to. You know you're always saying that. You're always saying that. Ben leaned forward and planted his forearms on the table. About everything I do. Be a man. Man up. Then when I do, you slap me down like some kid. He glowered across the table. A challenge offered. Dad stared right back. Challenge accepted. Then act like a man. Old-fashioned or not, you have a responsibility for being part of this family and this family's mission. Without me providing you every step of the way. I swore the temperature in the room plummeted 20 degrees. My skin tightened with goosebumps. Ben, Dad. I tried again. Come on, I thought we were going to figure out what's going on in the maze. Responsibility? Ben raised his chin in his voice. You're one to talk. What's that supposed to mean? Dad dropped his fork with a clatter and shoved his plate away. I can't freaking believe you took Matt in there today. He's 11. You think 12, I protested. Mom wouldn't want him hunting this young? I cringed. The mom card. We rarely played that one. It was too painful. But once it was at the table, all bets were off. Dad stiffened. His mouth worked for a moment. Then he spoke. Your mother is not here to make that decision. I wish she was. The unspoken, instead of you, stunk up the air between them. Silence wailed through the house. They glared at each other, reenacting so many meals and so many fights that I wanted to smash my plate on the floor. Instead, I bolted, banging the table leg and rattling the dishes on my way out. And that is the end of this chapter. There's going to be a few more chapters I'm going to try to put out today. Thank you for listening. Please consider subscribing, and if you have any questions or comments, please say them in the comments. Thank you.